Great. Well, the first thing I'd like to ask you is why have you decided to run for governor?
Well, frankly, I didn't really want to run for governor. What happened is I started going through the candidate that were running, and they weren't talking about some things that I thought were very important. So I believe
Yeah,
there's been a global control mechanism for a long time, trying to control people and manipulate people. And they weren't talking about that. They weren't talking
yeah,
about things like election fraud. They weren't talking about something near and dear to my heart, child sex slavery. So that's
yeah.
why I jumped in the race because somebody's going to have to start telling the truth. So that's why I ended up running, and it's we're getting a lot of traction right now.
Great. And what are your main priorities?
Well, obviously to end corruption is a big,
Yeah,
huge one for sure. I can tell you in California, I believe what I call WARF, the waste, abuse, redundancy, and fraud, is probably about 75%. So that means that 75 cents out of every dollar people spend on taxes is being thrown away. So
yeah,
that's something we're going to tack with a forensic audit. I'm probably going to have AI involved in trying to dissect the problems and then have the human element do the audit on top of the AI.
all right. Well, AI is very important in in the campaign. But do you have any specific measures that you would like to implement in regards to healthcare, education, or the environment, housing, all these other issues?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, for example, when I travel the world, like if you go to Spain, you're not having issues with gluten intolerance and dairy intolerance, and you don't
Yeah,
have dyes in your foods and all that. You have clean food, right? Not in the
yeah,
United States. It's like everything we're eating, if it's processed, is poisoned. So we're going
yeah,
to go after that heavily. I'd like to make California the cleanest state in the union where people are excited to come here because they know that they're getting clean, healthy food. So that's one thing. And then I'm going to hold accountable what I call the medical mafia. And there's a pharmaceutical establishment and a medical establishment here that try to
yeah,
control things, force certain drugs or protocols on you, and we should all have freedom of choice on that. And it's amazing that many people think we're very free in this country, but there's a lot of restrictions that we have that are kind of hidden through a corporate veil of sorts.
yeah,
So it's corporations that are pretty much controlling everything over here. So that's huge. Absolutely. I don't generally believe in subsidies or in
yeah,
financial incentives because I lean what we call libertarian. But when it
yeah,
comes to agriculture and farming, I will do my best to incentivize them to make clean food because I believe a clean, healthy California is a more productive and prosperous
yeah.
California.
Great. So how do you plan to end corruption and fraud in the state of California?
Yeah, and it's a tough one too. So the first month we are going to hold what we call a sheriff symposium, and we're going to educate the sheriffs and other law
Yeah,
enforcement officers on how important it is to abide by their oath and the constitutional duties that were put forth in front of them, which many of them have gotten away from. And just because somebody is so-called an elite established person doesn't mean we ignore them. In fact, they should be held accountable just like somebody on the street should be held accountable. So we're going to
yeah,
do that. We're going to enable them to do the best job they can. And in addition to that, we have a website that will be going up called Exposure. And that exposure website will start to expose the corrupt judges, politicians, and anybody else that is in the way of
yeah,
protecting our children and making sure that we are thriving and healthy. It's very important. That website, coming from a gubernatorial standpoint, is going to be a big deal.
yeah. You mentioned in the beginning when we started talking, you mentioned that you would like to end child slavery, child sex slavery, and what are the measures that you want to take, that you wanna implement in regards to that and to protect children?
Great question. So we're already developing a human and child sex slavery task force right now with the best of
Yeah,
the best, the ones that we have the software that we're looking at to go ahead and expose pedophiles, tracking systems to track these evildoers, and we have to have the enforcement arm just to shut them down. There's no will to shut them down right now. And there's a lot of
yeah,
money in the system that's actually coming from what I call the American mafia, which has been funding, or let's call them the American cartel, which has been helping funding the other cartels to make this operation thrive. They're hiding their
yeah.
revenue with inside real estate and um, insurances and things like that. So we're going to go very, very heavy onto this. And in addition to that, we are going to hold judges accountable that have been completely running support for the cartel and other organizations.
Great. How do you plan on fighting against all the economic, social, all the restrictions? Because you're a libertarian, you mentioned that you lean more to the libertarian side of economics. How do you plan on, reducing the reducing the restrictions of the government
Well,
on freedom?
part of our audit is going to be a fair audit. We're going to look at all these regulations and evaluate if they're
Yeah,
needed, because there's a lot of fake regulations, and all they do is line the pockets of NGOs and politicians and some other
yeah,
nefarious people. So I'm not going to blanketly just remove everything. I'm going to be fair, and we're going to look at it and say, well, we don't need that one.
yeah,
Let's get rid of it. Some of it we can get rid of from the jurisdictional portion of the governor, and some we're going to have to go through legislature and get these removed. But a lot of it that we can do is we can defund a lot of these avenues. And there's something that was a reversal on the Supreme Court in the United States called the Chevron deference, and it was a 40-year stronghold giving NGOs and non-government entities the ability to fee and fine us. Well, they overturned that in
yeah,
2024. So we will be sending a lot. If we can't get legislature to sign off on it, if we can't do it ourselves, we're going to send it all the way up to SCOTUS to get an affirmation of that so we can get rid of this ridiculous fees and fines
yeah,
and control that they try to hold of us from a non-governmental position.
yeah. What is your diagnosis of the current governor, governism? Uh,
It's not,
I don't
it's,
remember the name.
yeah, well, the diagnosis is he's malignant cancer. Absolutely. I want to talk in
Yeah,
medical terms. This guy is, in my opinion, and this is nonpartisan. He's just even many Democrats think he's just a
yeah,
disgusting human being because he has no value for people of California whatsoever. It's all about money, lining the pocketbooks, supporting his political elite, keeping them in office, keeping them in control while he's literally burning this state to the ground. So
yeah,
I have no good things to say about him except happy exit day. His last day will be the end of this year.
yeah. Um, uh, well, of course, on the issues of constitutional rights and civil liberties, where do you stand on those issues?
Well, I would be huge on those issues. In fact, everything that I believe in is created from the founding fathers of the United States. Um, for example, the First Amendment is absolutely amazing. You know,
Yeah,
the First Amendment gives us a freedom of speech, press, so on and so forth. But even what's important, people don't talk about, the Second Amendment protects our First Amendment rights. And frankly,
Yeah,
I believe that this deep state cabal would have taken over our country fully a long time ago if it wasn't for the fact that we have more guns than people in our country. And there's not a
yeah,
bunch of mass shootings that's reported. There's not a bunch of people running around doing things. They're literally just protecting their own land. And that's the
yeah,
beauty of the way things were written over 250 years ago. They put in place a structure where it'd be very, very hard for the government to completely control us, like they've done recently in Australia when they did their gun buyback, and in Canada when they did the gun buyback. And look what's happening in Great Britain when they don't have guns. And it's not that people,
yeah,
it's not the wild, wild west out here like the news media would tell you. These are just people that are protecting their homes, and they're sit in place. So if our government overreaches, they will end up being held accountable.
yeah. That was said in the years of the revolution to protect the people from from the government and from foreign invasions of the nation. So I think it's it's something that is really important in terms of the history of the American nation.
It really is. In fact, it's interesting. The shortest clause is shall not infringe in the Second Amendment. And that tells you everything it is. It says don't touch it. It says none of
Yeah,
your business, hands off, right? But there's been constant infringement on a state level for sure, and the feds try to get involved, and we push
yeah,
back, and we generally win.
yeah. That's right. All right. Well, the last question would be about if you get elected as governor, what are the things you'd like to do on the first few days?
Well, the first few days we're going to commence the audit, and I think the audit is very, very important.
Yeah.
And we're already going to have dialed in reports in homelessness, and I would like to do our best to take seniors and veterans off the streets
Oh,
immediately
yeah.
while
Right.
we're working to, you know, help the others that can come off the street and hold those accountable that are criminalized or criminals on the street. So that would be very, very good. Our task force will go to work immediately. We'll already have a list of perpetrators that are child sex trafficking, and you'll see a lot of activity in the first few days in regards to that.
Great, that's great. Well, I forgot about asking about, the farmers and veterans, of course, that those are, people who have been left behind in some areas. So, I don't know if you have, if you want to answer or
Sure.
not to those
Yeah, so
concerns.
any
Yeah.
in regarding the farmers and the agriculture industry,
Yeah.
it's set up for failure, which is really, really sad. With it's overregulated. I call it
Yeah.
underwater, and then the only way they feel like they can survive is with chemicals and GMO,
Yeah.
genetically modified foods. So we will do everything we can to support that industry because that industry needs a lot of help, and it will also help our Californians
Yeah.
and the people of California. So we're going to be all over farming and agriculture, hands on in regards to that. Now, our veterans, we want to keep all their services going and amplify their services. They need to get the best healthcare services and activated to them as
Yeah.
fast as they possibly can. They absolutely need more psychological support,
Yeah.
and there's certain things that we can do to help rehabilitate them through PTSD and other things. So we're going to ramp that
Yeah.
up to a higher level. Three of my children are vets, so this is very a big
Wow,
passion of mine.
that's great. Yeah. It's very important. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add as a
Well,
conclusion.
just to conclude, if people are really looking for somebody that's for we the people, it's hard to find.
Yeah.
I get it, but they've already called me the anti-politician for a reason because I don't play politics. I'm just honest,
Yeah.
straightforward. If anybody wants to learn about our policies or our platform, you go to hermsforcali.com, hermsforcali.com. We have people that donate and volunteer all over the world. So if you want to volunteer, you can still go on there. June 2nd is our big primary. So that's the
Yeah,
big,
I
huge
know.
first, that's the first finish line, I guess.
Yeah. Well, my best wishes for you and hope you
Thank you.
have a great day.
You too. Appreciate your time. Bye bye.
Bye.